Okay, today we'll talk about the passive. I hope this is not the title of your group, but the title of this topic instead. Okay, so I'd like to talk about the passive, which is one of the last topics that we cover for Pergamma 1, and I'll tell you all about what it entails. Before we start, I'd like you to look at these 4 sentences and think about what's the difference between these two and between these two. Between this one, and between this one and this one. Before you talk about that, I'd like you to think about that for 30 seconds. Any volunteers who would like to explain to me what the difference is? Yeah.
In the first sentence, Julia is the subject, and she is reading this book twice, so she is performing an action.
Excellent. Yeah.
In the second sentence, this book was read twice, so this book is the subject, but unlike Julia, it's not performing an action, but it's engaged by something or somebody else.
Yeah, it undergoes an action.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Very good, excellent. Thank you. The same goes to the second set of sentences. The first one is the subject performs an action, and in the second one, the subject undergoes an action. The first sentence is active, and the second one is passive. Passive. So this is a difference between active sentences and passive sentences. In an active sentence, the subject does something, performs an action. In the passive sentence, the subject undergoes action. So it doesn't do anything, it experiences something. Right. When do we use the passive? This is just, you don't need to know this for the exam, this is just to help you understand it. For example, when it's not important or known who did it. For example, the statue has been destroyed. We don't know who did it. We'd like to know, but we don't know. So we can't mention the subject. So instead of saying someone has destroyed the statue, we say the statue has been destroyed. We can say someone has destroyed, but it just sounds nicer when you say the statue has been destroyed. Sometimes you want to avoid saying who did it. For example, the famous quote from American presidents is mistakes were made. And I can't remember which president it was who said that, but there was some sort of scandal, and then he had to admit that he'd made a mistake, so he said, but of course he didn't want to say, I made a mistake, so he said, mistakes were made. Mistakes were made. That's a passive sentence when you don't want to mention the subject. Sometimes it's obvious who did something, who the subject is. We don't say the postman will deliver your parcel at 12 o'clock. No. We say the parcel is being delivered, obviously by the postman. Passives are also less direct, so more polite. Will our application be granted? Sounds more polite than when you say, will you grant our application, which is an active sentence. So a passive sentence where you leave out the subject, you don't say you say, will our application be granted, sounds more polite, because passive sentences are less direct. And sometimes we use a passive to describe general feelings that we feel in general. London is said to be a dangerous city for cyclists, rather than they say London, which is also correct, but you can also say London is said to be a dangerous city for cyclists. This would be the translation of the Dutch men. Dutch men. People often feel you can translate Dutch men with one in English, but you can't. One is not a translation of men. One, especially in British English, not so much in American English, especially in British English, one includes yourself. When you say one is not amused, you mean I am not amused. Yeah. So when you say one says London is a dangerous city for cyclists, you sound rather stiff and old-fashioned and formal. but it also means that you personally feel that. So one very often also is a less direct way of speaking about yourself. So don't translate men with one, just translate it with a passive. Men vindt, it is thought that. Yeah. Or it is found that. Any questions so far? So in general, the passive is used to avoid mentioning the subject, either because it's not important, because we don't want it, or we don't know who the subject is, or we want to be more polite. Yeah? Right, so let's just try it out then. I'm not going to give you the rules yet. I'll explain to you later on how you form a passive. I'd just like you to struggle with this a little bit. Can you form these 7 sentences into the passive? And bear in mind that the passive sentence has to have the same tense as the active sentence. Here are the active sentences. For example, the first one is in the present simple. The passive sentence then also has to be in the present simple, without ing. If there's an ing form, then the passive sentence has to be an ing form. This is will have eaten. This is, what tense is that? Will have eaten?
Future form.
Future perfect continuous.
Future perfect, yeah. Future perfect. Future perfect simple, or future present perfect, which is also correct. So then the passive sentence also has to be future perfect. Yeah? Go ahead, I'll give you 10 minutes to do this. Form the active sentences into passive sentences. Good luck. Right. I'd like to hear the first few from you, and then I'll discuss the rest. Fatima. Who's Fatima? Yeah. What's the first one? How can you make that passive? What do you think? Don't worry about doing it wrong.
Okay, I only follow Jane has been kissed, but I think then you...
It's not entirely right, but it is a passive sentence. What were you saying? You didn't finish your sentence. What did you say?
No, Jane has been kissed.
Yeah, and then you said, I don't think...
Yeah, because I think you changed the tense.
Change the tense. So what should it be?
We were discussing that, but I really don't.
Does anyone have a... Yeah?
Jane is kissed?
Yes. Why Jane is kissed instead of Jane has been kissed?
Because is present simple.
Yeah, is this present simple? Yeah. Is that what you wanted to say?
Yeah, but you also always have to use a form of to be when you
Yeah.
use the passive.
You do. You have to use a form of be, and it's got to be in the present simple. Yeah. Jane is kissed. Yeah. What about the second one? Let me see. Red one, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, red one.
Wait, let's see. An apple is eaten.
An apple is eaten. Excellent. Yeah, very good. Okay, I'll give you the answers to the rest. George kisses Jane, becomes Jane is kissed. The second one, an apple is eaten. The third one is interesting. The newspaper has been read. They have read the newspaper becomes the newspaper has been read. Why? Well, this is a present perfect, and so here we have a present perfect as well. Right? Number 4, she has shown a picture. A picture has been shown. Both are in the present perfect. Right? People often make the mistake of using an ing form when there's no ing form in the active sentence. You can't do that. You don't say Jane is being kissed or something. That's wrong. And number 5, this does contain an ing form. This is the present continuous. Theresa is cooking dinner. Dinner is being cooked. That car could have killed you. You could have been killed, and Joy will have eaten all the bananas will have been eaten. Now, I haven't told you about the rules, have I? You have a question?
Yeah, it's about the ink form.
Okay.
Do you always have to replace it with PG when you're ink? Because my first, I was doubting if it was dinner is cooking or dinner is eating.
Yeah, I'll tell you what the rules are and then we'll come back to that. Yeah.
Alright.
Does anyone have any idea how do you form a passive out of an active sentence? Does anyone have any idea about the rule behind that? Yeah?
I think you take the direct object
Yeah?
and turn it into the subject.
Yeah, you take the direct object and change it into the subject. Yeah, that's the first step. George kisses Jane, becomes... Jane is the direct object, right? Which becomes the subject. Jane is kissed. But then, what do you do?
You take the tense that the initial verb is in and you make it passive.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds slightly vague still, but it's in the right direction. Shall I show you? The first thing to do is to make the object the subject. So Jack chases cats. Becomes cats are chased by good old Jack. Cats is the object which becomes the subject. Then what to do with the predicator? It's very easy if you just follow these steps. The predicator is a form of be plus past participle. So you always add a form of be. That's an attribute of the passive. The predicator starts with the form of be. And then you change the main verb, in this case chases, into a past participle, ed form. Cats is the object which becomes a subject. Then you start with the form of be, which should be are, to agree with cats, cats are. And then the main verb, chases, becomes a past participle, are chased. That's a basic idea, and you can add by Jack, but you don't need to do that. Obviously, because you might not want to mention the subject, because that's why you use the passive. Yeah.
Should you add with the predicator form of be and or have? Because sometimes you
That's
use...
the next thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the basic idea. Form of be plus past participle. But then, what do you do when you have an auxiliary verb? Lots of sentences in the previous slide have auxiliary verbs, right? Like have, and already a form of be. Well, the auxiliary verb comes before the form of be. So what you do is you first find the object. That becomes the subject. Jack chases cats, cats are chased. Then you look for an auxiliary verb. That's the second step. First find the object, then look for an auxiliary verb. Okay, let's look at this one. Jack has chased cats. Cats is the object, becomes the subject. Then an auxiliary verb. Yes, there is one. Has. Has is an auxiliary verb. So that comes next. Cats have. Then the form of be, which should agree with the previous verb, so it can only be been. Cats have been, and then the past participle chased. Cats have been chased by Jack. So when you use the auxiliary verb, automatically the rest of the predicator becomes the right tense. Do you see? So because you use have, the rest automatically becomes becomes the present perfect. Jack will have chased cats. Okay, let's look at this one. Cats is the object, which becomes the subject. That's the first step. That's easy. Then any auxiliary verbs. Well, there's two in this case, right? Will and have. Will and have. So those come next. Cats will have. Then you need to add the form of be, been, and then chased. The past participle. Let's look at the last one. Jack is chasing cats. Cats was the object, becomes the subject. Then any auxiliary verbs, yes, is. So that comes first. Is. So cats are. But then this one is a present continuous. So we need to use a continuous verb form. And that's the form of be that you add next. So if there's a continuous, it's a form of be that becomes the continuous. Yeah, it's transferred into the form of be. So cats are being, and then finally the past participle chased. So on the test, you'll get a few sentences which are active, and you have to make them passive, which is sometimes not possible, but I'll tell you later about that later. But to make it easy for yourself, you just follow these steps. Object becomes subject. Auxiliary verbs come next. If there's no auxiliary verbs, you just skip them. Then a form of be, and then the past participle. Any questions? Yeah?
Do you also need to provide the rules on the test?
No.
Okay, so for the passage, it's just filling in, make
Yeah.
active sentences passive.
Yeah, make active sentences.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure whether this is coming in the next slide, so I'll explain it to you here. What do we do when there's no object? For example, she turns left. Left is an adverbial, it's not an object. She turns left. In that case, we cannot make a passive sentence. You can't make a passive sentence out of she turns left. Left was turned. Left is turned by her. That's not possible. Yeah? So when there's no object, but maybe an adverbial, no passive is possible. Yeah? Because there's no one who undergoes an action, right? She turns left. There's no one who actually undergoes an action in that sentence. So you can't make that the subject of the passive sentence. Oh, there we go. That's the next slide. The bus driver turned left. Left is an adverbial. And it's not a direct object. So you can't say left was turned. And that's important. Any questions? No more questions? Right. Let's try a few more. Susan told a secret. Susan told me a secret. Lucy gave apples to the kids. I'd like you to make these passive. And I'll give you 3 minutes for that. Okay. Damien, right? Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How can you make the first one passive?
I thought a secret was told.
The secret was told, yeah. A secret was told. And then you said to Susan. No, that's not right. Susan told by Susan, sorry. Yeah. Okay, the second one. Yeah.
Well, I thought a secret was told to me.
The secret was told to me. Anyone had anything else? Yeah?
I had a secret was told me by Susan.
That's also fine. The secret was told me. Yeah, what did you?
I was told a secret.
Ah!
Yeah.
A secret was told and I was told a secret. How is that possible? We have two variations.
Are they blue? Correct?
What about Lucy gave apples to the kids? What did you have for that one?
I have
Sana, isn't it?
apples, yeah, it's Sana. Apples were given to the kids by Lucy.
Yeah, apples were given. But what did you have there, Damien?
The kids were given apples.
The kids were given apples.
Um,
That's funny, eh? You can have two variations there. I'll tell you why. Susan told a secret was told. Susan told me a secret was told me, or to me. Or, I was told a secret. Lucy gave apples to the kids. Apples were given to the kids. Or the kids were given apples. Now isn't that nice? We have two possibilities. Why is that? I'll tell you. As I told you, the object has to be made the subject of the passive sentence. That's easy when you have a direct object. However, some sentences have two objects, a direct object and an indirect object. In that case, both can be made the subject of the passive sentence. So we have two variations possible. On the test, if there's two variations possible, you should give them both. Otherwise you lose a point. So Lucy gave apples to the kids. Apples is a direct object. So that becomes a subject. Or the kids. That's an indirect object. That's another object. Could also be made the subject. So you can either start with apples or with the kids. Whatever you like. Susan told me a secret. A secret is a direct object, so you can start with a secret, but you can also start with me. And you don't say me was told, say I was told there. Yeah?
Is it possible to turn the benefactive object into the subject?
That's a good question. No, it doesn't work for the benefactive object. No. You can try it out. I baked. Is it? She was baked a cake. That's not what I would say.
No. Okay.
Adike?
Versions, all the three sentences are in the past, but why is it the last sentence were given? I also had that, but I was just wondering why is it were given, and in the second sentences it's just told, was told, and not the past participle. And in the last sentence it is the past participle.
This is past participle. Told is also past participle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? To tell, told, told.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. What's next? I think that's it, yeah. Okay. We'll be done really early. Are there any questions so far? No? Then here's the final exercise. I'd like you to rewrite these sentences using passive forms. So these 5 sentences, pay attention to the tenses and make them passive. The answers. He carried out the research in a period of 6 months. Let me see.
But I need it in square.
Mouths.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an out. Can you tell me what your answer is to the first one?
I can. The research was carried out.
The research was carried out. And can you explain how you went about this? How you did this?
The research is the object.
Research is the object, yeah.
And carried is past simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's no auxiliary verb, right? So we say the research was what will be carried out. Excellent. Yeah. Over a period of 6 months. By him, between brackets. Her neighbour has killed her, Melanie.
She has been killed.
She has been killed. Can you explain how you did that?
Because there is an auxiliary verb.
Yeah, the first step is the object. What's the object here?
So it's her.
Where is the object? Yeah. Which becomes she, yeah. Then the auxiliary verb, you were right, which is has. Has is the auxiliary verb. And then,
You add a form of to be.
yeah, a form of be, she has been killed. Yeah, she's been killed. Excellent. I'm going to show all the answers on the next slide if you want that. Boss?
The land was sold by the government over a year ago.
Yeah, the land was sold by the government a year ago. What's the object?
The government, and in the past it becomes the land.
The government is the subject, the land is the object, which becomes the
Yeah.
subject of the passive sentence. That's what you mean, yeah, obviously. Yeah. And then, is there auxiliary verb?
No, there's no.
No, there's no auxiliary verb. Excellent. Yeah. So we just say the land was sold by the government a year ago. Yeah. John?
Next one?
Yeah.
Okay. First I started with shoplifters, or all shoplifters.
All shoplifters. Yeah.
That's the object. And there's no auxiliary verb, so it's all shoplifters will be persecuted.
There is an auxiliary verb, but your answer is correct.
Oh, there it is.
All shoplifters will be prosecuted.
Oh, the will.
Will, yeah.
Yeah.
All shoplifters will, and then be prosecuted. And then the last one, she gave me the letter. Let me see, Charlotte.
I had the letter was given to me and I was given the letter.
Excellent. Very good. Yeah, there's two options here, of course. The letter was given to me and she gave me the letter. There's two objects, me. Sorry, I said it wrong. There's two options here. Me, so you can start with I. I was given the letter. And the letter is a direct object. You can also start with the letter. The letter was given me or to me. I thought we'd be early today, but we are finishing just in time, which is good. Here are the answers again. We have 1 more minute for questions.